So I will start all this off by saying thank you so much for having me. I am all about the women. I'm all about intersectional feminism. I'm all about the others and inclusivity and just awesomeness. So I'm just thrilled to be here. And I'm going to start everything off, sort of our evolution of what empowered leadership has to me in our company ended up looking like by giving you the 30-second overview of VMV, just so you know who we are. As Ria said, we're here on this planet to save the world's skin by making the safest, most proven effective care on the planet. Safest because we have an allergen rating system that my mother created, who's the big brain behind the company, in 1979. Actually, she created it in 1980. The company was invented in 1979. I'm sorry, I'm dealing with a cat that is rubbing itself against my laptop. So in case you're wondering what I'm doing, that's what's happening. So we have the safest thing sort of on lockdown. We have a study published in the top contact dermatitis journal in the world showing less than 0.1% reactions in over 30 years. It's kind of the holy grail to get one clinical study published in a peer-reviewed journal. And thanks to my mother, we have over 75. And we put all that into about 300 SKUs. Frankly, after COVID, it's probably going to be a lot less of skincare and cosmetics for women, men, and kids of all ages in the entry-level premium market and omni-channel distribution. And we are keen on spreading goodness like one of our great creams around the world. This looks much more impressive than what it is. We're impressive, but we're not big. We're very much the little engine that could. So at this point, we're selling in the Philippines, the US, Canada, Norway. We just opened Nepal. So go Philippines and go Philippine women in STEM and all that good stuff. Who we are as a company, as Ria also said, we're very committed to diversity and inclusivity. And if you can see, this is some of our staff sort of all over the world. And when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we're talking women. Ria mentioned some of the stats of the company, 70% total, 80% leadership, 100% the hardcore STEM clinical research area, but also in terms of race, sexual orientation, religion, etc. And Ria has really helped us forming these policies to make it clear who we are, what we will accept, what we will promote. As well, I find from the get-go, we have been very focused on balance, which has actually made it easier for women, I think, to flourish in our company. We've been offering telecommuting since 1999, flexible workplace options since 2018, shorter work weeks, longer vacations, and key to me, longer parental leaves, even for same-sex adopting parents. And we're trying to do good beyond that so that before COVID hit, I felt pretty good about who we were. This was us. We were all about lifting each other up. All of this is constantly evolving. This was, we're rewriting all of our language in our policies to use the singular they to be more inclusive with genders. This was our statement for Black Lives Matter. And then, of course, COVID hit. And we realized we couldn't run the business the way we were. Everything was just sort of turned upside down very quickly. And I attended a talk in EO by the speaker named Pascal Finette, very worth finding. And he was talking about how the organizations of the future cannot be the traditional hierarchical military structures of people, supervisor, managers. And every time we have to change something, we stop, have a brainstorming session, strat session, and then decide what to do. He said the organization of the future is what he called a chaord. I'm going to lower this because the birds get loud. But basically, this is a murmuration, which these are particularly starlings, they're a type of bird, but other animals in the wild also do it. And it's fascinating because what's happening here is in response to a potential threat by a hawk. And if you notice, it's extremely, these are hundreds and thousands of birds, right? And they're moving as one, and they're flowing and changing. So what's become clear is we can't just pivot, but we're gonna have to consistently flow in this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. If you notice too, there's no one leader starling. It's not like every time they have to turn and flow, they stop and the head bird goes, okay, so focus group, where are we gonna go? They don't do that, right? They just seem to know in real time where to go. Each starling, it turns out, science has shown, only interacts with the 6 or 7 closest neighbors. And this optimizes the balance between group cohesiveness and individual effort. There's no one leader, everyone's a leader. And that, says Pascal Finet, is the organization of the future, or the chaotic order of the future. And he says to build a chaord in your organization, you first have to agree on core principles, which are our values, also our huddles and our schedules, but we have to be able to distribute decision-making to the edges, so it's not so centralized anymore, and empower people to make decisions. What we then noticed is leadership had to change too. We couldn't just focus leadership on the structure of the organization or the engine. We had to focus on the fuel, which was our people, but not just our people. Like, I think a lot of us know we have to focus on the people in the organization. We had to focus on the people as people-y part of our people. That's a technical term, people-y. And part of that is because what happened in COVID is we were ripped cold turkey from this addiction to the myth of certainty. And it is a myth, because if you look at nature, the only thing not moving and constantly shifting is something dead. So we found that for our people who were desperate and panicking and fearful because they needed certainty, we had to stop trying to find them certainty and instead try to upskill them to be able to be calm and productive within uncertainty. This was a big shift for me, even in particular. We followed the suggestion of Christo Popov, another great speaker, who said, stop asking when it'll be over. This is the most worthless, mind-sucking, just soul-sucking endeavor that you can do, and focus instead on learning how to ride the wave. Pascal Finet also spoke about how we're in a liminal space. What is past is gone, but we have no idea what the future is going to be yet, and it's constantly evolving. So it's less about trying to know the future and more about learning to ride, like these murmurations, right? This flow. And yeah, a lot of the gooey stuff that I think maybe was unjustly once dismissed as feminine took center stage, which was all this self-care stuff, all this language that was hyper aggressive and toxic masculinity about suck it up and power through, and all that kind of fell to the wayside rather organically as people really came to self-care. Really take care of yourself so you can survive this pandemic, right? Again, with Christo Popov, something he said that really nailed it home to me was, a company is only a group of people. So if your people aren't healthy, if you're not eating well, sleeping well, exercising every day, taking care of your mental health, there is no use to talking to you about a P&L or cash flow. A company is only a group of people. So we really focused on that. Further from that, though, as this pandemic really kept going, it just hasn't stopped, right? Therapists are talking about it as a generational trauma because the stress is so chronic and it's taking forever. We realized another change needed to happen. We needed to evolve beyond self-care. And to talk about that, I encourage you to look up this really great article online. It's in The Atlantic by David Brooks. It's called The Nuclear Family Was a Mistake. What's interesting here is he talks about hyper-individualism really boomed in the 1960s. And with that, over time, came this association of wealth and success with individuality, with separation. I take care of my own, you know, I look out for myself, my whatever. And business, of course, was just profit, growth, revenue, shareholders. And he writes that today we're crawling out of the wreckage of that hyper-individualism. We've forgotten, to me, the power of vulnerability, which Brené Brown talks about a lot, the power of mutual reliance and responsibility for each other, the idea of kinship, right? And our ancestors, he wrote, relied on their extended family and wider kin, except they didn't define kin the way we do today, which is primarily biological. Throughout most of human history, kinship was something that we could create, which, if you know, drag culture in the 1990s, houses came about because of that, right? We created kinship to find a safe space for people who had been kicked out of their biological families. So in essence, our evolution in terms of empowered leadership went from, and anyone who's ever attended in VMV a mentorship meeting with me, I say this ad nauseum, The healthiest individuals in the organization need to be the leaders. We have to be our healthiest, best selves because we're dealing with the stress of everyone. We have to be calm. We have to be clear and focused. On top of that, though, we now had to learn how to be vulnerable. Brene Brown describes it as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. And we really had to learn how to provide safe spaces for our team. Non-judgment became such a key thing, really trying to focus on, again, the people-y people gooey part, right, of our people. And then on top of that, even further, was this return to the whole. I tell my kids when they start getting annoyed at me or annoyed at someone, I say, repeat this to yourself. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about me, right? And it's so powerful because it takes all of this self-care and brings it beyond you. And what I've noticed is from the traditional way of creating an external structure of a company that then influences how your people become, all of this focus on the people-y people gooey part and the community are actually building outwards. All this work is helping to recreate the company. And just literally 3 days ago, when I was preparing this on the Brene Brown podcast, she had Emily and Amelia Nagoski on there who said the cure for burnout isn't and cannot be self-care. It has to be all of us caring for each other. So on that note, I wanted to share some very quick tips of how I've been able to survive. And these are tips that we share in VMV all the time, ways to get empowered from the inside out. One is the gratitude journal. So many studies on this now. I don't really have to say much, but basically our brains are evolutionarily speaking hardwired towards negativity because that helps us survive because it reminds us that tiger wants to eat us. So at the end of the day, you make a list of what you're grateful for and it helps repattern the brain. And it's important to do it before sleep because that's when learning becomes cemented. Deliberate practice is another thing. In the absence of order, we explode because there's nothing to hold on to, right? So we create our own deliberate, strict sort of boundaries and schedules because ultimately, and this came from Vern Harnish, patterns set you free. When you wake up and you say, this time to this time is workout, this is me time, this is et cetera, that really helps ground you. Then there are two other things. There's this wonderful author named Chip Conley, who has a book called Emotional Equations. And he said, I'm a mathematician, so I struggle with emotions. What helps me is if I can put them into a mathematical equation. So he shared the anxiety equation. It's a multiplier equation. Anxiety equals uncertainty times powerlessness. If you can just lower one of those factors, uncertainty, find out more. And if you can't, then just focus on the things that you can control. That immediately lowers anxiety. The happiness equation is wanting what you have is divided by having what you want. In a nutshell, it's the happiness plateau where studies are showing if, oh my God, I'm going to kill to get this iPhone. I really want an iPhone. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then you get it. And really rather quickly, you're like, son of a bitch, there's a new iPhone. What the fuck? I hate this thing. Ugh, if only I had this. Ugh, whatever. It's so consistent with people who get their dream job or their dream spouse or win the lottery. So the key to happiness, it seems from a lot of these studies, is to focus on wanting what you already have because you wanted it at some point anyway. The worst thing you can do is keep focusing on what you don't have. Set your goal, but then focus on all the great things that you have. And then finally, I want to share this, which are sort of grounding and calming exercises to help with anxiety that also, again, we've been sharing at VMV over and over again. One is called square breathing, which even top combatants in the military do, which is to inhale for 4 beats, hold for 4 beats, exhale for 4 beats, and hold for 4 beats. And repeat that 4 times when you're feeling anxious. The next one is called the grounding exercise, which anyone who's dealt with trauma might have been taught, which is if you're woken up in the middle of the night because you're so anxious, right? You ground yourself and you say to yourself 5 things that you can see. So I can see the shadow on the wall. I can see the air conditioner light. I can see the shadow of the bed, the shadow of my hand. I can see the pillow. 4 things that you can touch. I can touch the sheets. I can touch my hair. I can feel the wind on my arms from the air conditioning. I can touch the cat, who I'm going to strangle in a bit. 3 things that you can hear: the cat, the air conditioning or the fan, the rustling of the sheets. 2 things that you can smell, like I smell the room, or I don't know, I smell some spray that I put earlier, and 1 thing that you can taste. And this really helps you get back to what's real. And on a very final note, and thank you for your patience with me, I want to share one of our core values, which is actually the loving kindness meditation, or the metta meditation. And basically what you do is you sit and you get quiet, and then you imagine in front of you, and you say silently to yourself, but you imagine in front of you, you coming to sit in front of yourself, and you say to yourself quietly, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be at peace. And you say this 4 times. And then you get up from in front of you, and then you imagine a loved one who sits in front of you, and you repeat, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be at peace. And you repeat that 4 times. Then that person gets up and an acquaintance comes and sits in front of you, and you say, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be at peace 4 times. That person gets up, and then the key, you imagine a challenging person in your life, and they sit in front of you, and you say, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be at peace 4 times. They get up and leave, and then you imagine a collective, which can be your family, the country, your company. In my case now, all of you here are my collective, and I want to wish you, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be at peace. Thank you very much.